You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Well, May has arrived, bringing with it some warmer, sunnier weather that just might have you itching to spend some time outside, maybe even with a good book this weekend. If you're in need of some new reading recommendations, you've tuned in at the right time, as I'm joined now by none other than Chris Hall of McNally Robinson Booksellers. Welcome back to the show, Chris.
Hello, Simon. Thank you for having me back.
Well, always a pleasure, especially since last month I wasn't here. Chris Wolf was sitting in the chair. I was over in Vancouver experiencing some warmer weather, and now a month later, here it is. I think it's arrived. Certainly, we deserve it here in Winnipeg, don't we?
We certainly do. I will say that Chris and I misbehaved in your absence. I apologize.
Oh, well, see, and there's a plug to go and check out last month's conversation if we ever needed one. I certainly am feeling more energized with this warmer weather. To begin this edition of What to Read, you're going to present a title that will help answer a very simple question, one that I think all of us have pondered at one point or another. How does the world work, Chris?
Absolutely. No small task. So yes, this is a book called How the World Really Works, the science behind how we got here and where we're going. And it's by a fellow named Václav Smil. And Smil can lay claim to being Bill Gates' favorite author.
Wow.
And that's no small claim, of course, but I can say that Václav Smil is a really good customer of McNally Robinson. He lives in Winnipeg and has for a long time, and he's regularly seen in these parts. So he's written over 40 books, most of them very academic and not books we can sell very well because, frankly, not very many people understand them. But he started to write books for the general reader. His last one, Numbers Don't Lie, was exactly that, and as is this new one. And he's a guy who knows an impressive amount about an impressive number of subjects. And so this book is an attempt to distill that knowledge into a book that helps us understand how the world really works. So he covers energy production and use and food production and distribution, our environment and its future. And he offers a reality check for both the challenges we face, but also the limits to the potential solutions that are being bandied about pretty easily. I will tell you it's not an easy read. It requires focus and reflection, but I would tell you that it's an effort worth undertaking. I found it very rewarding. I got some real insights about the world and not ultimately despairing, just frankly, we need everything we can get to face these challenges.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you is, this could be a sort of doom and gloom type of book. Did you find it to be more pessimistic, optimistic, somewhere in between, just really the cold, hard facts?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in between. It's like the reality check is the right word. He's not sugarcoating anything, but at the same time, he's not saying that it's, that we can't stop. It's just, this is what we face. And these are the, what it's going to require to move forward. So, yeah.
Bill Gates' favorite author and a regular customer at McNally Robinson. What are the chances of that?
I
know you like to feature local writers, Chris, but certainly a local writer with a global platform and tackling the whole world in this latest offering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of the world, next, an Argentine-born, Swedish-raised, U.S.-based writer. How's that for doing a bit of travel? The latest from Hernan Diaz.
Yes, exactly. It's a new novel. It's called Trust, and Diaz wrote a previous book called In the Distance, and it made the Pulitzer Prize shortlist, much to everyone's surprise. So this new one has been highly anticipated by many of us. The novel opens with the story of Benjamin and Helen Rask in 1920s New York. He's a legendary Wall Street tycoon. She's the daughter of eccentric aristocrats, and they've risen to a life of endless wealth, but they're come to the point in their lives where they're wondering at what cost that has come. So that is the question at the heart of another novel called Bonds, and that's a successful 1937 novel that everyone takes to be the fictionalized account of these two real people. So Diaz takes these two narratives, the real and the fictional, and he puts them kind of in competition. And then he adds a third perspective of a woman who is determined to disentangle fact from fiction. And the result is, on the one hand, a literary puzzle, but on the other, it's really an examination of how we tell our stories and how we try to control our stories. We hide some details, we emphasize other things. I found it fascinating on that level as well.
Yeah, a story within a story. It's always nice when that sort of trail happens, right? Where it sort of takes you on a journey and yeah, controlling narrative. This is something you've talked about with other titles of yours, even thinking about how we present ourselves on social media. But this pre-social media, of course, taking us back to the 1930s in New York. It sounds like a really gripping read.
It is. It's certainly got a story that pulls you along. Well, a couple of stories that pull you along, and then you start comparing and you start asking questions about it. It's yeah, you're right. This is something that fascinates me. I admit.
Another bit of fiction next, right?
Yeah, another novel. It's called All the Lovers in the Night. It's by an author named Mieko Kawakami. She's Japanese, and I've now read all three novels by Kawakami that are available in English: Breaths and Eggs, Heaven, and now this latest one. So I'm clearly a fan. She writes about solitary people very well. Breaths and Eggs was about a young woman unwilling to succumb to the expectations that Japanese culture has of her. Heaven was about a young boy and a young girl who are both isolated but find some comfort in a friendship. And All the Lovers in the Night is about Fuyoko Iri, who is a freelance copy editor. And she's unwilling or unable to maintain relationships with people. And as a couple of characters tempt her towards relationships, we get to know her better and better. And as with all three books, this means getting to kind of a very deep and honest place with the character. She's not perfect. She has past experiences that affect her constantly. But I find it hard not to see ourselves in these struggles. I just find her books very engaging and very insightful.
You mentioned having read the previous two that have been translated to English. Does this feel like an author progressing in their craft?
I think so. Yeah, she's still young, but yeah, she's got a lot going on, and I'm going to continue to watch her. I haven't been disappointed yet. And to read about her, I find other people finding things that I don't even see in her novels, which is always great.
Yeah, lots to uncover.
Mhm.
Another award-winning author next
Mhm.
of Funny Boy and the Hungry Ghosts. Tell us
Yeah.
about Mansions of the Moon.
Yeah, this is a novel by Shyam Selvadurai, and Selvadurai is a Canadian author, and he deserves to be better known. His first book, Funny Boy, as you say, it was shortlisted for the Giller Prize. Cinnamon Gardens was shortlisted for the Trillium. Hungry Ghosts made the Governor General's list.
Hmm.
The problem is that, or I guess it's a problem, there's 40 years between the first novel and this latest. And the bright side is that the work he puts into these novels really pays off. But Mansions of the Moon tells the story of Siddhartha Gautama, who will later become the Buddha, and his wife, Yasodhara. The story is from Yasodhara's perspective, and she must live in ancient India as a woman abandoned by her husband. And so she considers his spiritual calling as a deep act of selfishness and wonders what path she has towards enlightenment. So Salvadori's prose is very quiet, full of empathy. He examines these questions, and he creates quite a fascinating character, and a character not normally given much thought yet. Story that has all kinds of unexamined perspectives. And I would encourage people, we are going to do a virtual event with Shyam Selvadurai, and so you get a chance to meet him. And I would encourage everyone to give this some time. It's on Thursday, May 12th at 7. Should give his books a try. I've read, I think, all four of them. It's hard for me to keep track these days, but I'm always drawn to his next one. And one of those books, one of those authors that's almost automatic. I want to read the next one too.
Yeah, and of course, we'll be sure to get the links up there, and to keep an eye on that McNally website, because there are still virtual events happening. There are in-person events happening, and we're going to get to that just a little bit later. But in the meantime, one more title. We opened this segment with a scientist. We're going to close things out with who else but another scientist, right, Chris?
Absolutely. And this novel, this book, wait for it, is called "There Are Places in This World Where Rules Are Less Important Than Kindness."
Where are
And
these
other,
places, Chris? Where
yeah,
are these
exactly.
places? Yeah.
And the subtitle, of course, and other thoughts on physics, philosophy, and the world. And it's by Carlo Rovelli. And I admit to being a sucker for the title. I find myself reading it over and over. And I also admit to being a sucker for thinkers who bring science and the arts together. And that's exactly what Rovelli does. He's a wonderful way with metaphor. He's a great guide to physics in books like Helgoland and 7 Brief Lessons on Physics. This new book is a collection of newspaper columns he's written over the last decade. And so it's a really great introduction to his thinking. One example is he's taken with a butterfly exhibit he finds in a natural history museum, but this sends him off on a discussion of Nabokov, who was a big butterfly enthusiast. And then in another column, he finds passages in Dante whose descriptions of the universe is ultimately proven by Einstein. It's crazy the connections that he can make. And he doesn't appreciate the way our society wants to believe in hard boundaries between subjects. And he finds so much to be gained when a physicist reads a poem or a poet engages in a mathematical equation. And you may guess this, but I'm convinced and thus a big fan.
All right. So lots to check out. Diverse selections as always, Chris. Like you say, you don't disappoint with bringing something for everyone, and maybe something in that list that might appeal to some moms out there this Sunday, Mother's Day. Any special plans at McNally, or every day is a special day for mothers at McNally?
Absolutely. We're always up to that idea. We like to think that mothers love to read. That's our tagline we use. Yeah, we're expecting a busy weekend. We are going to sell lots of books as well as gifts, gifts of all kinds. There's something for every mother in here, I think. And so yeah, we're expecting lots of people to come in looking for a treat.
I was actually at McNally just last weekend, and I have to say, of course, there's plenty of selections out. The what to read suggestions are very accessible right when you walk in. But one of the things that struck me that I haven't heard in quite some time, and admittedly, I pop into McNally, say, every few months, but what I hadn't heard in so long was table reservations being called out. It was so nice to hear Prairie Inc. saying, so and so's table was ready. It'd been so long. So also a wonderful opportunity to, brunch or dine and peruse some new titles, right?
You're right. Yeah, it struck me the other day as well that, oh, that's a nice sound.
Yeah, isn't it? I
Yes,
sort of missed it, I really, really did. So lots to look forward to. Of course, Chris, thank you for your suggestions. We'll get them up on the Classic 107 website, McNallyRobinson.com, the other place to go. Lovely to see you. Hopefully we were better behaved than you and Chris last month.
Absolutely. Thanks, Simon.